Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor at USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Dr. Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
You know, I've got the sun in my eyes. It's looking out the window. It's bright. Looks like it's going to be a wonderful day. It's going to be almost 70 degrees here on the farm. The animals are going to love it. We love it. How about out your way? Is it nice and clear?
Yep, same thing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, class, if you'd like to give us a call, Dr. Norm Shealy's at the head of the classroom, at the blackboard, and 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And so the schedule for this week is Tuesday, Rich, Wednesday, Gwyneth, Thursday. It looks like I'm going to be teaching a class about... from the book. I'm going to talk a little bit more about tires. And believe it or not, even though we did 2 broadcasts on tires, we got probably another half a broadcast to do on what you need to know about tires and the way that they are balanced improperly. And just by knowing this, you can get yours done properly. Dr. Shealy, what's new in your world?
Well, on Wednesday, I will get the results of the most important research I've ever done in my life. But until I get that, nothing.
Well, can you tell us what you've been evaluating?
Anandamide, bliss. I have been intrigued with this for a number of years, but there actually are very, very few studies that give you all the details about it. It's a natural cannabinoid that the brain produces. In fact, you produce it all over the body. But apparently... it hasn't really been, in my opinion, I've spent hours searching the literature, and it hasn't been looked at the way I like to look at it. To me, it is the natural chemical, if you will, or hormone, that keeps you happy. It makes you feel good. It's anti-inflammatory. So it's your stabilizing hormone of all hormones in the body. I believe that using the cranial pimp will increase your anandamide. Now, all people with any known disease, I don't care whether it's anxiety or depression or pain or cancer or heart disease or whatever, have a low level of anandamide. I also believe that it is related to intuition and overall intellectual function. For instance, children with attention deficit disorder have a very low anandamide, that kind of thing. So we've got 160 blood tests and various things we've done to see what will raise anandamide, and if I'm correct, we have the key to bliss.
I remember you and I were on stage in Springfield at the Doubletree Hotel, and we were doing a live broadcast from there, and it was like a small auditorium, and I was there, without anything on my head, and you had a cranial stimulator on. And I thought, this isn't fair. And can you tell us about what that does, Dr. Shealy? Because, it seems like it absolutely works. And by the way, I have the PEMF device. I use it every day. And I'm up to a couple hours a day now using it. So please tell us about how this can work.
Well, it's called a pulsed electromagnetic frequency device, and ours sweeps these chakra frequencies from 5.83 to 56.81 cycles every 10 minutes. No matter where you put it on the body, it helps the brain get into gamma, which is the bliss state of the brain. And obviously, when you put it right on the head, you get the greatest concentration of gamma. And we have used it to treat successfully now for 36 months, 10 long-term opioid addicts. I've used it in hundreds of people with every known disease, from Parkinsonism to addiction, various other kinds. My favorite case, actually, is a 60-year-old patient with Parkinsonism. He was so bad, he was brought in a wheelchair, and with two people holding him to put him on the table, he couldn't put his feet on the floor. 1 month later, he walked 40 feet from the parking lot into the clinic. And, it just seems to rejuvenate the brain.
And it's non-invasive. It's less invasive than taking an aspirin.
Yes.
It's less invasive than drinking a glass of water.
It's
literally.
It's the
like
only contraindication is a pacemaker. It won't hurt you, but it might interfere with a pacemaker, so we wouldn't take a chance.
Well, I can tell you that when I use it, I use it every day. I have a pulse oximeter, and I look at my heart rate. And within a couple minutes, I notice that my heart rate comes down, 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 lower, lower, lower. And it could be a combination of a couple things. It could be that I'm, relaxed for that 2 minutes, from moving around to putting this on and relaxing. Or it could be the pulse electromagnetic frequency device, or both. Do you have any thoughts about that, Dr. Shealy?
Well, I have done this in people with all kinds of problems, including actually one lady who had only 75% oxygen saturation from chronic lung disease. And within 30 minutes, her oxygen saturation was up to 96%. So I don't think that could happen with relaxation. And I've lowered blood pressure from 200 over, let's say, 100 down to normal within the same period of time. So what it does is regulate the normal resting charge on a cell. In other words, if you have a cell that's not doing anything, it's just at normal. It has a minus 70 millivolt charge on it. But when it's agitated or, disturbed, it might be minus 50 or minus 60, and then it's overactive. Of course, it gets to minus 90, it's underactive. But what this does is reset the normal resting voltage to minus 70 millivolts.
It's quite fascinating. And class, if you were to see this device, you would say, can't possibly work. Well, I've been using it for a couple of years, and I got to tell you, I absolutely believe it does work. As a matter of fact, I keep it where I can access it frequently. And one of the things that, when I say frequently, I mean even multiple times a day. One of the things that I've noticed, Dr. Shealy, about our broadcast together is that even though you put the information out there and in an understandable way, there are still people who won't reach for it and do it, including taking vitamin C and vitamin B complex and astaxanthin, etc., and multiple vitamins. I don't know if it's too hard, it takes too much work. I don't know what the reason is, but even calling in here, I'll give out the number, and I've already given it out, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. I'll do it one more time slowly. 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, and you can speak with Dr. Shealy, ask him your medical questions, and he will give you expert advice of easily 6 decades of medical experience. So, but very few people call. I guess it's too much work. Instructors call here. Instructors are, those who want to learn more. They want to attain more. They want to grow and expand and do better at everything. And so they call in. That's for sure. But but there are not many students who call in. There are a few. Jean from Kentucky will call in, and she's eating less sugar, and that's great. But there aren't many people who call in, and it's kind of like the generally dumb public. They can't get out of their own way, and it's sad.
Well, that's
so
typical of people in this country. I say 97.5% of people are too stupid to be alive. 97.5% are lacking 1 to 5 essential habits. They practically, if they had to think about it, they wouldn't breathe.
Yeah. Well, I read this report, and it was about dehydration. And there are a lot of Americans, according to this study, that feel that they would rather take medication than drink more water. Because
now that is beyond stupid. That's insane,
right,
in my opinion.
Right. Well, right. I mean, it's easy. It's easy to know when you're thirsty. I mean, we've got a built-in thirstometer. It came as original equipment for all of us, and some people just would really. I'm not kidding. Would rather have medication than to hydrate themselves with water. Dr. Shealy, back in the 50s, 60s, I remember nurses pinching my wrist and other patients' wrists to see how the skin returned back to its state and, flexibility. And they were looking at that as a measurement of hydration. Is that something that is a bona fide indicator of hydration, or is that pseudoscience?
Well, yes, to some extent. Obviously, it takes experience to know what it means, and whether you're slightly hydrated or moderately hydrated. But yeah, it's valid. But there's another habit that I sort of forgot about for many years because the last time I played around with it, I was okay. That is the pH of your saliva. The pH of your saliva needs to be ideally 7.2 to 7.4. And if it gets down to 6.8, you are actually acid. And I learned recently, a couple of weeks ago, I got out my pH strips, and my pH was 6.8. And to bring it up to normal for whatever's going on, I need 2 teaspoons a day, one in the morning, one in the evening, of bicarbonate of sodium. That's the best way to raise it up simply. And now I'm back up to 7.2.
Okay. So how did you take that? That's bicarbonate of soda class is baking soda. Not baking powder. Not baking powder. Baking soda. It's that Arm & Hammer stuff.
Right.
And
I just put it in a half a glass of water.
Half a glass of water? So
and then I take another half a glass of water following that. Like a full glass of water is adequate.
All right. Now, do you take 1 teaspoon at a time?
Yeah,
and then
just one in the morning.
Teaspoon?
I started with just 1 a day, and it wasn't quite good enough, so I tried 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. Now it works.
Okay. Now, when you say in the evening, is that before bedtime or at mealtime or what?
Well, it's when I first get up in the morning, and then in the evening, it's just before I go to bed.
Okay. We'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy. Class, Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, medical doctor. Website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, you mentioned that you tested your saliva with pH test strips, and 7.2 to 7.4 is ideal, and yours came in at 6.8, which is acidic, and you used 1 teaspoon of baking soda, common baking soda, with half a glass of water, and then chased it with some more water, another half a glass of water, twice a day, and you brought your pH, your saliva pH, into normal range. When do you test your saliva? Is there a specific time? Do you have to wait between meals? Do you have to rinse out your mouth? What is the protocol for testing saliva?
It's best not to put anything into your mouth in the last hour, let's say, whether it's food or drink. However, I do it when I first get up, which is, to me, an ideal time.
Okay. And And you brought yours to within the normal or ideal range within a few days. What does it mean when your pH is acidic, as you said yours was at 6.8?
Well, it means that you are more prone to inflammation and other problems. Now, I didn't have any symptoms that have gone away, but sooner or later, it's going to lead to arthritis and other degenerative diseases. We need to be, our blood level is 7.4 pH.
Mm-hmm. And therefore, because the blood pH is at 7.4, saliva should be the same.
Yeah, close to it. Anywhere from 7.2 to 7.4 is okay for saliva.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and in this current environment that we find ourselves with the Chinese pandemic, the COVID-19 virus, we need to have our immune system top-notch 24/7, 365, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you think that this needs to be something we should, if we are normal, we test it at a specific frequency, like once a week, once a month, every 6 months?
I will never not test it at least once a week again.
Okay. And how invasive is this test?
Well, it's just a little piece of paper, and so I just touch it in my mouth. It comes in a little plastic bottle with 50 or 100 strips in it, and it takes, about 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Class, what we're talking about is kind of a litmus test. I remember from elementary school, you could find out whether something was acid or base, as simple as that. And this is a strip. It's maybe a 1/4 of an inch wide, maybe a little narrower than that. Maybe it's a couple inches long. And there's a testing area, and all you do is put some saliva on that. And if you want, you can form a little droplet of saliva, and you can transfer it directly from your mouth to the saliva strip. So you don't have to suck on it if you don't want to. And you'd probably be better off just having a drop of saliva, maybe do it over a sink or something like that you can rinse out, and just have a drop of saliva land on this thing, on the test strip, on the business end of the test strip. And you don't want to touch the business end with your fingers because you might alter the results by whatever pH your fingers might be. Right? So, yeah. So you want to handle these as scientific test instruments. You don't want to contaminate them. And how much does this cost, Dr. Shealy, for 50 or 100 of these test strips? Less than $10, right?
Oh yeah, maybe about $5, $6.
Mm-hmm. Now, you don't want the ones that have a really broad range. You want a set that has a more narrow, more specific range, so you can read the fine points of a tenth on the pH scale, like 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4. You don't want one that goes from 1 to 14, right? Right. Do you know what your range is, Dr. Shealy, of the type that you bought?
Yeah, it's actually 7.2, 7.4, every 2/10.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you want to zero in on that range. And are they sold for specific saliva tests, or is it just a general purpose pH
it's
test?
A general purpose. You can check the urine with it, too.
Okay. When we come back, could you tell us what we should find as a result with testing urine with these pH test strips? Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back. I'll do a little bit of research, and I'll see if I can find some and what the current price is, like at eBay or something like that. We'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy, normshealy.com. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, I went on the internet and I went to eBay during the break, and I found some lab test strips. They come 200 in a small bottle, 200 count, and they say it's for urine and saliva body pH. 200 of these strips shipped, $8.82. And it comes with the chart. Now, these have a range of 4.5 to 9.0. Now, the pH range, as you all remember from earth science and lab science from elementary school, the range of pH is from 1 to 14. 1 being acid and 14 being basic. So you really don't want, you can buy the range 1 to 14, but that range is so wide, you will not be able to determine the precise result of 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, etc., because the range is just so wide. You really want a narrow range for these test strips. Would you agree, Dr. Shealy?
Absolutely. No question about it. Now,
Okay.
on the urine...
So yes?
Well, you want the pH between 5.5 and 6. Now, some people say you go up to 6.5, but I've found that when it gets to 6.5, it's likely to make you a bit too alkaline in the saliva. So I like 5.5 to 6.0 for urine.
Okay, and can you tell us the protocol that you recommend for testing urine?
Well, the best time to test the urine is first thing in the morning, because it's generally somewhat more concentrated at that time, and, it's been a longer period of time, most of the time, for those of you who don't get up all night. So you've got a more concentrated urine, and but it could be any time of day or night, because you want it always between 5.5 and 6.0, in my opinion, for the urine.
Okay, so I've heard the term morning pee, morning space PEE, as in concentrated urine, and there's more of a odor in the morning pee. Isn't that right, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, but again, it is more concentrated.
Mm-hmm. And what does okay, so basically it sounds to me like we want to carefully just urinate on this test strip without touching the business end of the test strip, and then directly just urinate right on it, and then look at the results.
Exactly.
Isn't that's okay? And
but if you depending upon your fetish, you could use a cup of something.
Well, it seems to me that
why waste time?
Hygiene. Yeah, the hygiene, from laboratory experiments that I've done, over the years with glassware, there's always a contamination potential. So if you just go directly urinate right on this thing, on the test strip, you take that potential for contamination right out of the equation.
Absolutely.
No soap residue in the cup, etc. Okay. And so what if the urine is outside of that 5.5 to 6.0?
Well, if it's down to if it's down to 5, you're obviously much too acid, and if it's above 6.5, you are definitely too alkaline. And you could see those in extreme states, but they would be unusual.
Okay. Now, what if you are too acidic? You're at 5.0. Will the baking soda that you recommended to raise the saliva pH, will that help that condition?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then when do you stop taking this 1 teaspoon of baking soda, in the morning, or twice a day, if you have a very low range in terms of pH? When do you stop taking it?
Considering that my diet has been pretty stable for the last year, and it did make a big change a little over a year ago, and I realize now that part of the reason for that is I have been eating more protein, and protein in general is acidifying. I'm still getting all the antioxidants that I need, but I have increased my protein to an average of about 120 grams a day.
Would, Dr. Shealy, for those who love McDonald's and its clones, and there are people who just are addicted to that. For those who eat those kinds of meals, would that alter their saliva pH and urine pH to the point where you could see it based on that kind of a diet?
Likely to be very acidifying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And does the increased consumption of salt affect the pH of saliva and urine?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Because, I've read labels of all kinds of things. And the amount of salt, if you could open a can of soup, and find out that it would be a meal. If someone wanted a quick meal, just open a can of soup, add a little bit of water to it, and then, bam, have a meal. But the amount of salt, sodium, and sugar that's in a lot of these canned foods is extraordinarily high.
Yes.
Like more than a day's worth. And so what they do is, like a can of beans, green beans, it's got a lot of salt in it. And you would think that you could easily eat a can of green beans as a meal because it's only 15 ounces. But if you look at sodium content of cans of food, it's extraordinarily high. And so what they do is they measure it. They say, well, per serving. So you get 2.5 servings of green beans in a can of green beans. Now, I don't know how that. I guess that's called the fun size serving. That's a tiny, tiny serving to me. Just to get off on this little tangent, here's what I do. Here's a tip from my book. What I do, and I'd love to hear Dr. Shealy's thoughts on this. I will take a can of green beans, whether they be French cut or just cut green beans, and I'll pour out the water. I'll remove the lid or cut the lid 95%. And then I'll leave a little bit of that 5% as a hinge, and I'll pour out the water. Of course, I rinse off the top and wipe it off with a clean towel to get any dust that might be on the lid. And then I pour off all the water that I can. Then I lift up the lid, and I'll put some ProPure water and fill up that can again. And then I will drain it again. And I'll do that 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 times. And then I'll put the can of rinsed beans without any water into a small saucepan. And then I'll add water again. And I'll let them soak for a couple minutes. And then I'll pour off that water. Then I'll add a small amount of olive oil and some garlic. And then I'll eat that. Now, I believe I have reduced the salt content of those green beans. Do you think that is true, Dr. Shealy, or not?
Well, true. If you're going to eat it, you definitely need to dilute, if you will, or get rid of the salt.
And, class, water is the universal solvent. That's why you wash your hands with water.
Now, if you live in a city, however, remember you're poisoning yourself anytime you use city water. You must get rid of the fluoride in your water, or you're poisoning yourself in a worse way yet.
Mm-hmm. And there's probably another way of looking at this, too, and that is if those green beans were processed in a city, they probably use city water anyway. So you've got
yep.
The added benefit of extra fluoride in the green bean. So water as a universal solvent I think is a great way to go. Okay. So we've talked about pH. Now, Dr. Shealy, I know that if I consume vitamin B complex, it alters the color of urine to a darker, more yellow rather than a clear color, if clear is a color. Is that considered normal or abnormal or what?
Normal.
Okay. What if one takes vitamin B complex and it does not make the urine more yellow? What does that indicate?
Makes me suggest you're not getting enough B complex.
Okay.
But I would doubt that anyone taking my essentials, even 2 a day, would have clear urine.
Well, I can tell you that there's no clear urine around here. Okay, so Dr. Shealy, how important is Dr. Shealy's essentials for general health? And I take these classes. I take these multiple times a day.
Well, in today's world, remember, the pollution in the world in the last 100 years has just multiplied thousands of times. And whereas prior to the significant air pollution with radiation, with Roundup and God knows what other junk, we didn't need nearly as much. I mean, way back, 1 to 2.5 milligrams of B1, B2, B3, and B6 were adequate. But now I believe you need 25 milligrams. So the pollution has gone up tenfold or more, and our B-complex need has gone up because of that.
Dr. Shealy, I've got your Dr. Shealy's Essentials, and it says on the label, Dr. Shealy's Eco Green Iron-Free Essentials with Super Greens, 90 veg capsules, and in terms of vitamin, well, it's got A, C, D2, E, B1, 25 milligrams, and it has, let's see, B1, B2, B12, B6, and these are all higher than the percentage of the minimum daily requirement, except for B12, which is, you got it, 400 milligrams. Wait a second. I'm looking at the wrong line. Yeah, all of the Bs are higher than the minimum daily requirement, which is what you were talking about.
Yes.
What I do is I write on the caps, these little bottles, I write on the caps, and so I can look at, without looking at the labels, I can see from looking down on them what they are. So I write DRSE, like Dr. Shealy's Essentials. And then I wrote with a Sharpie on the same cap, maximum per day equals 4. And I believe that's what you said, that would be the maximum that I could take per day. Is that correct?
Yeah.
4 per day? Okay. So class, I'm just giving you a tip from my book. It's real simple. You can take a Sharpie and you can write the maximum number that you can take per day. So I also have Youth Formula in my hand right here, and Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula, and I write YF for Youth Formula on the cap, and then I have max per day equals 8. Is that correct, Dr. Shealy? Did I write the right number? Okay. So that's how I do it, class. And then I have turmeric curcumin complex, and I don't have written on the top the maximum, but what I do is when I take a Youth Formula, I take a turmeric curcumin. It's let's see, I think it's 500 milligrams. Yeah, I'll tell you in just a second. I changed the label, but I'll tell you when we come back. The 450 milligrams. It's the new Chinese size. They used to be 500. Classic, the kiss of death in radio is challenging advertising. So I'm going to do it right now. I hate it when people lie, but what you heard is an absolute lie. 70 years of smoky coal bear, only you can prevent wildfires? That's a lie. That's not what it, and I don't want you to start forest fires, and I don't want you to start out of control fires, but it's Smokey the Bear, not Smokey Bear. It's not Smokey Coal Bear. For 70 years. I've been around for almost 70 years. Darn close to 70 years. And it's Smokey the Bear originally, and it's only you can prevent forest fires, not wildfires. So they have changed history. And I'll be glad to have them come on. So if you are part of the Smokey the Bear contingency and you'd like to come on the air with me, I'll give you the number right now. You can call us up and tell me how I'm wrong. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. It was Smokey the Bear back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and it's only you can prevent forest fires, not wildfires. Now, if you want to prevent wildfires, you have to go to the California utilities, because they're the guys that start these wildfires through their mismanagement of the power grid in California. So we were talking about urine and pH. Dr. Shealy, the color of urine, I don't want to get too graphic here, but doesn't the color of urine directly relate to the consumption of water?
Well, of course. If you don't drink enough water, it's going to be much darker. Mm-hmm. And the average person probably doesn't drink enough water.
Okay.
You should drink if you weigh 100 pounds, you should drink 50 ounces, 150 pounds, 75 ounces, etc.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And we've got a couple lines lit up here. Be right there. I just have one more clarification on urine color. So, Dr. Shealy, throughout the day, would you say that starting out in the morning, the urine is darker and gets lighter if you are hydrating enough? If you're hydrating enough? Okay. All right. David in Illinois, you're on first, then Craig in New York. You'll be next.
How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Hey,
real quick, we did Smokey the Bear thing in 3rd grade when I was a kid. So it was Smokey the Bear.
So are you saying that, are you lining up with me that that was a lie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They gave us buttons and all kinds of paraphernalia. Anyways, now my wife has been on doing your Dr. Shealy's recommended magnesium to regulate her heartbeat. And now she had her lab work done in that Digitech. They said it's way too high now, but they won't explain why. But my question is, does that medicine? I imagine the heart rate is getting under control. She's been doing the magnesium, vitamin D, and everything religiously. And now all of a sudden this medicine's way too high and they need to take her off it. And she's on the lowest dose. So does that medicine just sit in your blood until the heart needs it, so it's dormant, just there waiting? Or how does it work?
Well, you're talking about a drug now, not magnesium.
Yes. Right. A Digitech, I believe it's called.
Right, I understand. In general, it should be having its effect every day. Now, depending upon the dose, and of course, if she doesn't need it, there comes a time when you can be weaned off a lot of drugs. My natural approach will control high blood pressure, for instance, 99.9% of the time without drugs. And once you've gotten weaned, you don't need them anymore.
Right. She's down to only taking 2 of the lowest dose a week, which she was on it every day. But since the heart, her heart rate's not bothering her much anymore, and her regular doctor's like, no, that can't do it. Magnesium's not going to do it. You got to just take this. Well, then how come it's so high? They're talking about finding a way to take her off of it.
Well, I'm sorry. I have to say I believe they are uneducated in magnesium.
Yeah, because it's obviously working, because the lab results show she don't need that medication. And so that's one positive. Now, is it okay to tell you about a situation, Vince, on your show about this virus vaccine?
Absolutely. As long as we're speaking the truth, absolutely. You can name brands, corporations, whatever. Just you might want to preface it that this is what you've experienced. That'd be a great way to go. But I'll tell you what, hold that thought. We're going into a top of the hour break, and I wanted to mention very quickly that what I did, and this may not be scientific, but I put my 2 fingers over my right hand, 2 fingers on my wrist of my left hand, and I would feel my pulse, and I could feel that I had an irregular heartbeat just by doing that, and simply by taking magnesium lotion and magnesium spray that Dr. Shealy offers, it straightened out very, very quickly. So that's one way that I was able to tell, and I'd love to hear Dr. Shealy's comments about is that scientific enough or not to get a general idea of what's going on. We'll be right back. Just as a quick update, I just received confirmation that Kyle will be joining me on Thursday, and we're going to be talking about tire inflation, rolling resistance, actual tire plies, and ply ratings, which are completely different things, lazy balancing of wheels with ceramic wheel weights, or ceramic beads instead of wheel weights. We're going to talk about pitman arms, tie rod ends, sealed for life ball joints, and why a 15-cent part at the manufacturing level costs the average car owner hundreds and thousands of dollars in repairs. And then valve adjustment, how to adjust your valves, and spark plug heat ranges, and how you can put extended life into a vehicle by increasing the heat range of spark plugs. So that's on Thursday. David's with us. David, you were talking about heart medicine. Please continue.
Yeah, the heart medicine one I already dealt with, but I had a close relative that just got that vaccine, the Mernick, or what, the 2 virus injection. She got it for work, and within hours, because she drives, she was losing her vision. Her vision was going out. And they said, get to the ER right away. They got her there. Now, the next morning, her temperature started dropping. She couldn't stop shaking. They brought her in there again. Well, they chewed her out. There's like, didn't you read the pamphlet? Vision loss is a common side effect. I mean, so then she goes to the back. They check her the second day after her temperature's dropping like crazy. She can't stop shaking. And he says, well, this isn't caused by the vaccine. It must be an underlying condition. And so now they want her to go to all these specialists. I'm like, wait a minute, this wasn't bothering you until they made you take this stupid vaccine for work. But vision loss is a common side effect. I mean, really?
Well, all I can say is you would have to shoot me with a gun to get any of the vaccines into this body. There's no circumstance when I would allow it.
Now, what worries me more than this crazy virus is they have allowed 55 people from the Congo that were exposed to Ebola.
Yep.
And they mentioned the state they're monitoring them here in Kansas is one, but they didn't say the other one. That worries me way more than the virus, the other virus. That's why I'm more worried. Sorry.
Dr. Shealy, do you have any thoughts on, we just heard at the top of the hour news that there's another report that says that no, this did not come from the Wuhan lab. This came from bats. And this is something that the Chinese government was involved in this release of this information. But 2 days ago, it was reported that it did come from the Wuhan lab, and it was a bioengineered weapon. So we've heard both sides of this many times. Dr. Shealy, do you have any thoughts on where this came from?
I have no idea. Mm-hmm. I don't trust anything that comes from anywhere anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then speaking of vaccines, Dr. Shealy, wasn't there a difference in vaccines? I'm talking in the 1950s, the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine, etc. Wasn't there a reason to have vaccines? And now it's like there were some risks back then, but nothing like there are now. Has it changed in your mind?
It has gotten oddly much, much, much worse. Mm-hmm. They've added all kinds of genetic and other difficult things that I don't believe should be in vaccines.
So if you were advising a young parent today, and the parents were told that in order for their child to go to the public training camp, i.e. the public school system, that they would have to have this battery of vaccinations, what would your opinion be? Would you resist it? Or would you say, oh, it's okay? What would you do?
Well, I think I would begin to think about homeschooling personally.
Well, that's what we did. That's what we did in the 90s. We literally, we told the school system, oh, yeah, have your children been vaccinated? Yes. Which is true. They got vaccinations, almost at birth, but they wanted to have more, way more. And they said, were your children vaccinated? Yes. Which is true. But they didn't have all the vaccines that the school wanted them to have. And then they said, well, prove it. We said, no. And then they said, well, your child can't come to school. And we said, we have a religious exemption. And they said, okay, your child can come to school. Then we realized that, that was for a short time. And then all of our children were taken out of school. So the most that any one of our children had gone to the elementary school was 6th grade. And that was the last that she went to, the public training camp. And then we homeschooled. That's what we did. So, class, you can do this. You can homeschool your children. And then, of course, the school system is going to say, well, what are you going to use for a curriculum? And we said, well, we're going to use the same one you guys use. And I got to tell, except we're going to enhance it. Now, there's no argument there. If we're going to use the same curriculum that they have, they can't say that it's insufficient, because it's the same one they're using. But there's a Calvert School, Calvert. There are a whole bunch of homeschool programs that you can, buy and use to educate your children. And you can homeschool them, and they won't be subjected to as many diseases and the second-rate food in the cafeteria and the bullying. So instead of having your children learn how to fight in school, you can take them to karate classes, which is what we did. Any comments, Dr. Shealy, then David?
Well, today things are different. That's all I can say. And they're not different necessarily in a good way.
David?
Yeah, if homeschooling, after what I seen, there was a show where they put older people that look like kids into the school system and they filmed it. It's like the teacher's not even there. These kids are doing whatever they want. You know, they're not learning anything. I'd rather, if I had a child now, it'd be homeschooled.
Well, what I've seen, and I was a computer consultant, and they turned me loose in the school system. They would just say, do whatever you think you need to do. And I did. And so I got a chance to spend a lot of time in every class, science class, math class, history classes, every class you can think of, including band. And I observed, and I helped the school system with, applying computers in a positive way to education, rather than replacing teachers with computers, which I refuse to do. I refuse to replace teachers with computers. And it worked. So I got a chance to see what the public training camp was like. And there are lots of fights, literally lots of fights. I mean, I know this is a tangent, but I was pulling into the parking lot one day after lunch, meeting with the superintendent, pulled into the parking lot, and I saw a sedan pull up to the front door of the school. And it was just like in the movies. Guys ran out of the sedan, left the car doors open, ran in, and they were going to kill somebody, literally. And the principal, who happened to be a karate instructor, backed these guys right out. It was one principal against 4 guys. He backed them right out. And but it could have been somebody getting killed. And then the ROTC instructor was thrown down on the terrazzo floor by one of these thug high schoolers. So it's kind of a dangerous place, and I don't know why these children are so out of control. And this was in the 90s, So I know it's gotten worse. If the schools are open in your local area. David, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you. Nice being able to see you again.
You're saying that there are risks that you have firsthand experience, or someone who has had firsthand experience with temperature change, blurred vision, etc. And they were told this is common.
Yeah, common side effect. Because they knew my medical history, that I know about what isn't. So plus I had to keep them calm before the second time, so they didn't worry about going into shock. They're very upset. But yeah, driving, and the vision started going out while she was driving. So that's even more,
Is this, okay, has this situation resolved or not?
No, she just said she ain't taking the second one, because they say if you get the first one and you have bad side effects, the second one is even worse. So but she tried to ask for if she had a choice, the Johnson one, and they said, no, sorry, you don't get you don't get to choose.
Okay.
They're not taking it. Sorry.
Okay. Dr. Shealy, do you have any comments about the second vaccination?
Well, I wouldn't take the first, so obviously I wouldn't take the second.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And Dr. Shealy, how about this? If these companies are all competing, Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, all these companies are competing, and they are not collaborating, meaning they're not sharing results, and they're actually competing with each other, how do we know which one is the most, if one is the best vaccine, how would we even know that? Or would we not know?
We will never know. Mm-hmm. It's totally not possible.
Okay, class, so I think what you've heard right here, right now with Dr. Shealy is he's not going to take it. You're going to hear from me right now. I'm not taking it. No one in our family is taking it, but we do know people who have taken it. And we also know people who have died of the coronavirus. We learned over the weekend that our daughter's Our daughter went to school up into the 6th grade in the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of her classmates married a guy. He was infected. They airlifted him to another hospital. He died. Now, he's a young guy. So, it's not like we're talking about lots of health problems. It's not like we're talking about a senior citizen. We're talking about a young guy. And so of the people that we know, he's the third to have died. 2 in our extended family and 1 family friend, husband of a family that I worked with our daughter's friend's mother. She taught at the high school where I taught. And we worked, relatively closely together. And it's very sad, very, very sad. And it's needless. And I really believe it is, in my opinion, it's a man-made bioweapon. I believe that it got out. I don't know how it got out, whether intentionally or not, but it's out and it's killing people. And what I don't understand is why all of the countries of the world have not ganged up on China and said, you know what? We've had it with you guys. You make socks and you say they're size 10 to 13 and they're really like size 9 to 11. And you take 10% out of everything that you make. So everything is at least 10% substandard. It breaks faster. The sizes are wrong. They wear out faster. And we've had it with you guys. And because of all of the shenanigans that you pull on us, none of us is going to buy any of your products or services anymore. We've had it with you. And within 2 years, China would be, China's economy would collapse. But no one's doing it. Why, Joe? Why are we not starting this trend? We'll be right back. Class Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, I write down in a notebook the regimen of the supplements that I take. So, for example, I have a spiral-bound notebook, and I write the day, and I write the time and what I take. So I might say 8 a.m. YF, Youth Formula, one of those, 1 turmeric, and 1 DRSE for Dr. Shealy's Essentials. And I keep a record of that, and I religiously write in this notebook. So if I wonder, did I take it? Oh, I can't remember. And many people are, of that of that persuasion, and they have more trouble remembering than they used to. Do you recommend something like that, or do you have a better way of going?
Well,
for your patients?
Obviously, I take 90% of my supplements in the morning, and I put it all in a blender, and I take it for the day. It's just easier for me to remember that way. And I blenderized 110 capsules.
So do you just take out the capsules and dump them out, or do you throw the whole capsule?
When I get up, I actually mix I take all the capsules and put them in some water in the blender in the freezer and let it sit for an hour, and then I add all the other stuff to it when I'm ready to drink it for breakfast. And I just blenderize the capsules, just a little extra gelatin from the capsules.
Okay. And that's what I was wondering. So Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula is a capsule. Dr. Shealy's Essentials is a capsule. Okay. So you drink them liquefied. Now, that was one of the questions that I had on my notebook for today. Is there any risk of taking some medicines by either chewing them or breaking them apart?
Well, with prescription drugs, I would not do that way. I wouldn't trust them. I'd be concerned about what would happen by blenderizing them.
Okay. But in terms of supplements, natural supplements that you offer on your website, that's okay to blenderize them?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tonsils. I remember back in the 50s and the 60s, and I don't know if it's because, I was surrounded by young people and they would have their tonsils removed, What was that all about, Dr. Shealy, having your tonsils removed? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? Is it
pre-antibiotic? It could be a very dangerous situation. I remember very well having my tonsils removed when I was, I think, 10 years of age. And they got infected, and they didn't have there were no antibiotics. There was no other way to treat it except to get them out of there so they didn't keep pustulating up.
Okay. Now, so pustulating. So what would be, how would someone know if they had infected tonsils?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't know unless you developed a fever, and it'd be very sore, very painful. And if you open your mouth and look, you could see the enlarged and red tonsils.
Okay. And when someone has infected tonsils and they have them removed, is there any downside to having tonsils removed?
Well, they used to say that it could weaken your immune system somehow. I don't know, but I'm 88 years of age. I had mine out 78 years ago. I haven't noticed.
Okay. So would you recommend, if someone had a choice of an antibiotic to solve the problem, and it's not a frequently recurring problem with tonsillitis, for example, would you recommend just keeping the tonsils and going with the antibiotic and solving the problem?
I think antibiotics are worse than the infections. I'm serious.
Okay, so you have
run. They weaken your immune system tremendously. They destroy.
So you would have your tonsils. You would have your tonsils removed. You would have your tonsils removed in that case.
Absolutely.
Okay. I have in front of me probiotics, and it's a 10-strain probiotic. And according to your protocol, I take them every day.
Yes, so do I.
What does a probiotic do, Dr. Shealy, for us?
Okay, in your small intestine especially, but in your colon as well, you actually have more bacteria than you have cells in your body. The bacteria are the major source of your immune system, and they are critically important to your health. So if you destroy them with antibiotics, it sometimes takes months or years to restore them to normal.
Schedule an appointment where you can talk to Dr. Shealy privately, either through telecommunications or telephone or Skype or something like that, or in person. 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. The website is normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And Dr. Shealy's on the air every week on his own broadcast on KICK, AM 1340, Springfield, Missouri. And you can find out about those broadcasts and get a reminder if you'd like. Just go to his website, normshealy.com, and sign up for the free newsletter, and you will get the same reminders that I get. So you can tune in and listen on the internet and actually watch Dr. Shealy live. You can watch the video. So any comments about that, Dr. Shealy?
Nope, I'm open.
Okay. I have a question from one of our class about insomnia. And what do you think about insomnia?
Well, ideally, I think you should avoid caffeine after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think you should eat not later than 2 hours before you go to bed. But if those don't work, then my favorite is actually time-release melatonin. Time-release melatonin does work well for a lot of people, but it can take up to 30 milligrams for an adult. You start off with 5 milligrams maybe and gradually increase it if you need it. I think it's much safer than any drug.
Okay, so melatonin, does that have the same kind of effect as tryptophan, for Thanksgiving turkey dinner where people just
yes, in general,
get really tired?
Of course, tryptophan is best in the morning if you want it to because it makes serotonin first. But if you have adequate serotonin, then you will turn it into melatonin at night. So many people can actually have a greater energy during the day by taking even up to, depending on your weight, but up to 7 grams of tryptophan in the morning. But you got to be sure to take it with B complex. You can't make it out of tryptophan without B complex.
Okay. So would you recommend Dr. Shealy's Essentials for the B complex?
Of course.
Okay.
That's what I take.
And that's what I do as well in class. So Dr. Shealy's Essentials, that's his multivitamin with B complex. And I take that with vitamin C. So is there anything else that you have as a recommendation for insomnia? And it seems like I'm reading more and more people are having trouble sleeping. And
well, of course, my old favorite, autogenic training, if you really will do it, it can help you sleep.
Okay. Autogenic training, and that is available right on Dr. Shealy's website as well. You can go to normshealy.com and you can download the autogenic training. Okay. We talked about tonsils. Warts. I remember back in the 1950s and 1960s, there used to be advertisements for this cream in a tube, and it would dissolve warts. And I don't remember hearing people say they had warts anymore, like in the, recently. Was that something that just spread like wildfire? People got warts and we don't get them anymore, or do we still get them? Do you have any information about warts?
Well, I know that actually castor oil will help them go away. If you put a Band-Aid filled with castor oil, soak it over it. And it's the safest thing I know for getting rid of a wart. And theoretically, they are a virus, but they seem to be cured by castor oil.
Okay. So just put a drop of castor oil. Do you put a Band-Aid on the
over
wart?
Just to hold it in place, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. And just so the castor oil kind of stays there. And now, do you take the Band-Aid off and let that...
once a day, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, so let air heal the wound and then replace it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We adopted a couple dogs, and about 12, 13, 14 years ago here at the farm. And, now they're senior dogs, and one of them has cataracts. So every day, or maybe twice a day, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, I'll go over to her, give her a big hug, and she can't see the drops coming from overhead, and I'll put a drop of castor oil USP, US Pharmacopoeia. I have a small dropper that is just for her. It doesn't contact her eyes, so there's no transfer of bacteria back to this little bottle of castor oil USP. 1 drop in each eye, give her a biscuit, give her a hug, and she's good. But do you think that there's a chance that this will reverse or dissolve some of the cataract?
I have had reports from 2 people with dogs and 1 with goats dissolving the cataracts in their animals with castor oil, and scores of people.
Okay. Well, you've recommended, and correct me if I'm wrong, 1 drop in each eye at night if you have cataracts, and just go to sleep. And because it will cause your vision to go blurry, because you'll be looking through a layer of castor oil, on the lens of your eye. So you're going to see blurry because you've just got another layer of translucent oil to look through. And if you do it at night, you won't even notice it because your eyes will be closed. But one of the things that I do, believe it or not, is when I use the pulsed electromagnetic frequency device that you make, at the same time, I will put a drop of castor oil in each eye and either close my eyes or I'll watch some video that I really don't have to pay too much attention to detail. And that's during the day. Okay? So what are your thoughts about at night versus during the day? Because it doesn't blur your vision more than a few minutes, so I don't think it matters. Okay. And so, class, I want to tell you that the things that we talk about here, I actually do them. And when I talk about Dr. Shealy's Essentials and his youth formula, it's not a commercial. I don't get paid to do it. I buy them from Dr. Shealy and I consume them and I take them. So it's not a commercial when you hear me say it. It's an endorsement. And if it didn't work, I wouldn't talk about it. I really wouldn't. And one of the things that you recommended as part of my regimen, Dr. Shealy, is a root powder called, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, ashwagandha, ashwagandha, ashwagandha root powder. Now, can you tell our class why you've recommended that?
Of all of the natural products, and there are a number of them, this is one of the ones that enhances your immune function optimally. It's at the top of my list for improving immune function. There are others, all kinds of mushrooms and other such things, but ashwagandha is really superb.
Okay, and the one that I have is 800 milligrams per capsule. And what is your recommendation? I've got a Sharpie marker right here. I do not have I just take one per day. What is the recommended?
Actually, about 1,500 milligrams is the ideal dose for an average adult.
Okay, so at 800 milligrams, would I say 2 per day?
Yes.
Okay, would that be 1 twice a day?
Well, I take 1,500 milligrams. I get capsules that have 1,500 milligrams in them. I take one in the morning in my blender.
Okay. All right, and are there any negatives about ashwagandha root powder?
I don't know of any.
Okay. Very good. Herbal teas and medicines. Now, a lot of us like herbal teas. Do you have any recommendations for which herbal teas you like? And are there any recommendations to avoid specific herbal teas with certain medicines?
Well, to me, herbal tea mainly means that it has some flavor in it, but no caffeine in general. It wouldn't be considered, herbal if it had caffeine in it. There are dozens of them. Of course, curcumin or turmeric would be near the top of my list as one. The second would probably be pomegranate, and third would be cranberry. But there are many, many different ones. There's a lemon ginger that's also excellent.
Okay. There's a lemon ginseng tea, herbal tea that I like.
Another good for your immune system.
Okay. Going back to probiotics for a minute. When a person takes a probiotic, let's say day number 1, and takes an antibiotic day number 2, does the antibiotic kill all of the benefits of the probiotic?
Yes.
Okay. And then so you start back over day number 3 with the probiotic.
Right.
And then, okay. So what would happen if a person didn't take the probiotics?
Well, if you don't take the probiotic, you may recover, depending upon your own immune system in general. But often the gut problems are persistent for many, many months after antibiotics if you don't take probiotics to restore them.
Okay. And do the probiotics start right away, or does it take time for them to get, up and running?
This is a very unique individual thing, but it can take a week or two for sure.
Okay. And one of the supplements that I take, Dr. Shealy, is garlic. I don't know if Italians are, predisposed to liking garlic or what the reason is, but I like garlic, and I know, and I've mentioned this many times on the air, that I know that it lowers my blood pressure and it lowers my heart rate. And so I think it's something I should do. But if I'm taking garlic as a concentrated caplet, if you will, and I'm taking a probiotic, would the garlic as a natural antibiotic kill off the benefits of the probiotic? Should I separate?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So, and what I do is, when I take supplements, I space them out. It's exactly the opposite of what you were recommending for you, but I just keep this notebook, and for example, you've recommended that I take beta glucan, and I'll take that. I might take that with the youth formula, the vitamin C, with MSM. I might take it with serapeptase. I might take it with your Dr. Shealy's Essentials, and I might take it with taurine. or I might separate them by 15 or 20 minutes or so. Is there any of these supplements that we've discussed over the years that we should take with food or without food, or don't they matter as supplements? I'm not talking about medications now. I'm talking about just supplements.
Well, a lot of the supplements say take it with food, and I have to say that, of course, when I mix mine in a blender, I add to it my whey protein powder, so I'm always taking it with food.
Okay. What are your thoughts about I'm just trying to spirulina? What are your thoughts about spirulina as a supplement?
About what?
Spirulina?
Oh, spirulina, yes, it's a good one. It's a wonderful green food, very high in antioxidants and a quality protein.
Okay. And is that something that most people should consider taking? Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. We were talking about spirulina, and then the commercials started. Dr. Shealy, what were your thoughts about spirulina and for most people? Or
it's an excellent antioxidant. It's a green food, and all green foods are good. And so, yeah, if you aren't eating your 8 servings of fruits and vegetables a day that are ideal, then adding spirulina powder would be a great idea.
Is there something that we can do to enhance our stem cells, through supplements, diet, etc.?
Absolutely.
PEMF. Okay. What do you recommend?
Well, of course, I take 26 different fruits and vegetables in a powdered form every morning in my slush. And you don't have to take that many, but I like it. And it's safe. There's no known complications of taking, antioxidant vegetables.
Okay. And I mentioned feeling my pulse on my wrist using my 2 right fingers and feeling my pulse and see if it feels regular and that kind of thing. Are you saying that, or is it possible that you can feel an irregularity with your 2 fingers?
Oh, absolutely. I do it in the office all the time.
Okay. And if you feel an irregularity, what would you recommend?
Well, the most common deficiency is magnesium. Mm-hmm. Magnesium lotion will take care of it a great deal of the time, but you got to do it twice every day.
Okay. I only use it once a day, Dr. Shealy, so should I bump up to twice a day?
Well, for most people, they need 2 teaspoons twice a day. And if you use, maybe if you used 4 teaspoons once a day, it would be just as good. I don't know.
Okay. How is restless leg syndrome tied to a deficiency of some kind?
Magnesium again. Absolutely, no question about it.
Okay. So what I found is sometimes I'll have that restless leg syndrome, and I'll just apply some magnesium lotion or spray, and 10 minutes later, it's all fixed. All fixed.
Yeah.
And okay. Are others, do you have other patients who have experienced the same thing?
Absolutely, no question about it.
Okay. So why does this happen? I don't think it happened when I was younger. I did get leg cramps every once in a while.
The soil is so deficient in magnesium today.
Okay.
Once upon a time, we had magnesium adequately. Now, I presume that you give your cattle extra magnesium.
You bet.
You don't.
We do.
Well, interestingly, it is said that they will often die of grass daggers if you don't give them. But you put lime on your fields, don't you?
Yeah, and I dropped off a bucket probably last year of the lime that we use, which is most farmers don't use the lime that we use because we use it because it has a high concentration of magnesium in the lime. Now, most farmers don't like it because it tends to compact the soil, but we want the magnesium in the soil for the grass to grow so the cows don't get grass daggers.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what we do. So if you want, I'll bring another bucket next time we come to Springfield, and a 5 or 6 gallon bucket of this high mag agricultural lime. Okay, I'll do that. And by the way, I started those moringa seeds just to see if they're going to germinate. I only had 1 out of maybe 20 that germinated, so I think the seeds I don't know. They've failed. So that's why I haven't dropped them off yet. But if I get them to germinate, I'll bring some over. I'll bring some plants over. Can you talk about moringa and what we can do with moringa? Should they grow?
Well, you want to eat the leaves. That's the nutritious part. They are loaded with antioxidants and a quality protein. It's one of the better vegetable proteins. And it has a good amount of magnesium in it. So it's high on my list of vegetables.
Okay. And when you start your plants in your greenhouse, I'm talking about tomatoes and peppers, etc., do you end up fertilizing them before you plant them in the ground? Or do you just use, like, potting soil?
I just use potting soil, personally. And but then, of course, I keep my soil. Every year I try to put fresh compost on it in the fall. Do you put in pretty much in your compost? You put in pretty much everything from the kitchen. What I'm talking about is eggshells, the wrapping from lettuce, onion peels, anything that will rot. Yes.
Coffee grounds.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what we do. Okay, and I'm looking at my list here. Grapefruit juice. My dad used to love grapefruit juice, and so do I. But I've read you shouldn't have grapefruit juice with certain meds, and it can mess you up. What are your thoughts about grapefruit juice?
In general, I think it's a great food. I like it. It's good for you.
Any concerns about doubling the effects of medications?
Well, now that's the problem. Once you start taking drugs, there's no such thing as no side effects. There's no known prescription drug or over-the-counter drug that does not have potential side effects, including death.
Yeah. And that's what they say even about a colostomy, colonoscopy. Dr. Shealy, thank you.